At exactly 3:47 a.m. inside the ancient Jajiesa temple in Seoul, South Korea, a woman knelt alone on the cold wooden floor. Tears streamed down her face as she pressed her palms together and whispered words she believed no living soul would ever hear. But she was wrong. Someone was listening. And that someone was Park Chan-woo, the 34-year-old Korean billionaire CEO of Hanjin Global Enterprises. He had stepped into the temple that night to escape the crushing weight of his own demons. He came here every year on this exact date, seeking peace he never found. But tonight would be different. Tonight, he stood frozen in the shadows behind a wooden pillar, watching this American woman pour out her soul to the Buddha statue ahead of her. Her shoulders shook with each sob. Her voice cracked with exhaustion and desperation. And what she said next made his blood run cold. "I know I'm not Buddhist," she whispered into the empty temple. "I don't even know if anyone can hear me, but I'm begging for help. I need someone powerful, someone who knows this city, someone who can help me find my brother before it's too late." She paused to wipe her face with her sleeve. "I don't have money. I don't have connections. I don't have anything left except this feeling in my gut that tells me Damon is still alive somewhere. Please, I'm asking the universe, God, Buddha, anyone who's listening. Send me someone who can help." She pressed her forehead to the cold wooden floor. "I'll do anything. I'll give up anything. Just help me find my brother." Chan-woo felt his chest tighten as he watched her. He hadn't meant to eavesdrop. He had simply arrived at the temple the same way he always did, through the side entrance that the monks left unlocked for him. He had expected silence and solitude. Instead, he found this woman. Her name, he would later learn, was Cynthia Brooks. She was 28 years old, originally from Scottsdale, Arizona. She had worked as an investment analyst at a boutique firm until 8 months ago when her younger brother Damon disappeared. Damon had come to South Korea on a tech internship. For the first 3 months, he called Cynthia every Sunday without fail. They talked about his apartment, his coworkers, the street food he was obsessed with. Everything seemed fine. Then the calls stopped. At first, Cynthia told herself he was just busy. Young people got caught up in new experiences. It happened. But when she couldn't reach him for 2 weeks straight, she contacted the company he worked for. They told her Damon had resigned. When she contacted his landlord, she learned his apartment had been found empty. No forwarding address, no explanation, nothing. The police in both countries had investigated for a few months before quietly giving up. Missing adults who left voluntarily weren't a priority. There was no evidence of foul play. No body, no crime scene, just a young man who had seemingly vanished into thin air. But Cynthia refused to believe her brother had simply walked away from his life. Damon would never do that, not without telling her, not without saying goodbye. So she had cashed out her savings, quit her job, and flown to Seoul with her last $800 to find answers herself. That was 72 hours ago. Now, kneeling in this temple in the middle of the night, she had run out of leads, run out of money, and was running out of hope. Chan-woo watched as she slowly rose to her feet. She wiped her face one more time, squared her shoulders, and walked out of the temple into the cold Seoul night. She never saw him standing in the shadows. But he saw her, and something about her prayer had reached inside his chest and grabbed hold of his heart in a way he couldn't explain. Chan-woo pulled out his phone and sent a single text to his right-hand man, a former military intelligence officer named Kyung-ho. "Find out everything about an American woman named Cynthia Brooks, and pull the file on Damon Brooks again. I need both by morning." He paused, then sent a second message. "This is priority 1. Kyung-ho's response came within seconds. "Understood." Chan-woo slipped his phone back into his pocket and stood in the temple for a long time, staring at the spot where Cynthia had knelt. He didn't know why he was doing this. He had no reason to help a stranger. He had no obligation to answer a prayer that wasn't meant for him. He had enough problems of his own, including a federal investigation breathing down his neck and a business empire that required constant attention. But something about the way she had spoken, The raw desperation mixed with stubborn hope reminded him of someone. Himself. 10 years ago, his own younger brother Yiwon had disappeared under similar circumstances. Chan-woo had searched for 3 years before finally accepting that Yiwon was gone. The grief had nearly destroyed him. Maybe that was why he couldn't walk away from this woman's prayer. Maybe he saw in her the same desperate hope he had once felt. Or maybe the universe really was listening, and it had placed him in this temple at this exact moment for a reason. Either way, Chan-woo made a decision that night that would change both of their lives forever. He was going to help her find her brother. The next morning, Cynthia was sitting in a tiny cafe in the Myeongdong shopping district, nursing a cup of cheap coffee and staring at a notebook filled with dead ends. She had spent the entire night walking the streets, unable to sleep, unable to think clearly. She was so lost in her thoughts that she didn't notice the man in the black suit approaching her table until he was standing right in front of her. "Miss Brooks," he said in perfect English. Cynthia looked up, startled. The man was Korean, middle-aged, with a face that revealed nothing. "How do you know my name?" she asked, her guard immediately up. The man didn't answer. Instead, he placed a single business card on the table in front of her. It was black with silver lettering. No company name, no address, just a phone number. "Someone heard your prayer," he said simply. "He wants to meet you." Before Cynthia could respond, the man turned and walked out of the cafe, disappearing into the crowded street outside. She stared at the card, her hands trembling. Who had heard her? She had been alone in that temple. At least, she thought she had been alone. And more importantly, why would a stranger care about her prayer? Every instinct told her this was dangerous, that she should throw the card away and forget this ever happened. But she was out of options, out of leads, out of time. Cynthia picked up the card and stared at the phone number. Then she pulled out her phone and started dialing. "Now let me ask you something. If you were Cynthia, would you make that call? Would you trust a mysterious stranger who somehow knew your name and exactly where to find you? Drop your answer in the comments right now. And if you're already hooked on this story and need to know what happens next, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Because what Chan-woo is about to reveal to Cynthia will change everything she thought she knew about her brother's disappearance. Cynthia almost didn't make the call. She stared at that black business card for 3 full days, picking it up and putting it down at least a dozen times. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was a trap, that following mysterious strangers in a foreign country was exactly how people ended up dead. But every other door in Seoul had slammed in her face. The police weren't interested. The American embassy offered nothing but sympathy and paperwork. The tech company where Damon had worked refused to even meet with her. On the 4th day, with less than $200 left to her name, Cynthia made the call. A woman answered and asked for her name. When Cynthia gave it, the woman simply said, "A car will pick you up in 30 minutes. Please be ready." The car was a black Mercedes with tinted windows. The driver said nothing during the entire ride, which took them out of the busy shopping districts and into a part of Seoul that Cynthia had only seen in magazines. Gangnam. The buildings here were taller, sleeker, more expensive than anything she had encountered so far. Glass and steel towers rose into the sky like monuments to wealth and power. The car stopped in front of the tallest building on the block. The sign above the entrance read, Hanjin Global Enterprises, in both Korean and English. Cynthia had heard of Hanjin Global. Everyone in finance had. They were one of the largest conglomerates in Asia, with interests in technology, shipping, real estate, and about a dozen other industries. Their CEO was famously private, rarely photographed, and worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $12 billion. What could someone like that possibly want with her? She found out soon enough. The elevator took her to the top floor, where a secretary escorted her through a series of hallways until they reached a set of massive wooden doors. The secretary knocked once, then opened them. The office beyond was enormous, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of Seoul. The furniture was minimal but clearly expensive, and standing behind a desk the size of a small car was the man who had apparently heard her prayer. Park Chan-woo. He was younger than she expected, maybe mid-30s, tall for a Korean man, with broad shoulders and a face that would have been handsome if it weren't so completely expressionless. He wore a charcoal suit that fit him perfectly and a watch that probably cost more than her entire year's salary back in Arizona. "Miss Brooks," he said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. "Please sit." Cynthia remained standing. "You're the one who was in the temple that night." It wasn't a question. "Yes," Chan-woo admitted. "I didn't intend to eavesdrop. I was there for my own reasons." "But you did eavesdrop, and now you want to help me. Why?" Chan-woo studied her for a long moment before answering. She noticed that his eyes were sharp, calculating, like he was measuring her against some invisible standard. "Your brother's name appeared in a file that crossed my desk 3 weeks ago," he finally said. "He was connected to a business deal that went wrong, a very specific kind of business deal." Cynthia felt her stomach drop. What kind of business deal? The kind that most people don't survive. The words hung in the air between them. Cynthia gripped the back of the chair to steady herself. "Is he dead?" "I don't know," Chan-woo said. "But I have resources to find out, resources that the police don't have, resources that could help you find your brother one way or another." "And what do you want in return?" Chan-woo walked to the window and looked out at the city below. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. "I'm being investigated by American authorities. They believe my company is involved in illegal activities." He paused. "They're not entirely wrong." Cynthia's eyes widened, but she said nothing. "I need someone who can help me understand how they think," Chan-woo continued. "Someone with a financial background who can analyze my legitimate operations and help me identify vulnerabilities before they find them. You were an investment analyst. You understand numbers and systems. You want me to help you hide your crimes?" "No," he turned to face her. "I want you to help me separate my legitimate business from everything else. Permanently. I'm trying to get out of the shadows, Miss Brooks, and I need help doing it." Cynthia shook her head in disbelief. "So let me get this straight. You want me, a stranger, to help you restructure your billion-dollar company in exchange for helping me find my missing brother?" "Yes." "That's insane." "Perhaps." Chan-woo walked back to his desk and pulled a folder from a drawer. "But before you decide, I think you should see this." He slid the folder across the desk toward her. Cynthia hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a photograph. Her brother, Damon, alive. He was thinner than she remembered, and his face was bruised. But he was alive. The timestamp on the photo was from 3 weeks ago. Tears sprang to Cynthia's eyes as she stared at the image. But then she noticed something else in the photograph, someone else. Standing next to Damon, holding a gun to his head, was a man she recognized immediately. Marcus Webb. Her ex-boyfriend. The same Marcus who had called her 6 months ago to offer condolences when Damon first went missing. The same Marcus who had told her she should accept the truth and move on. The same Marcus who had comforted her through months of grief and uncertainty. He had known where Damon was the entire time. He had been lying to her face for 8 months. Cynthia's hands began to shake as rage replaced her tears. "I see you recognize him," Chan-woo said quietly. "I dated him for 2 years," Cynthia whispered. "He was the one who encouraged Damon to take this internship. He helped with the visa paperwork. He recommended the company." "I know." Everything clicked into place with horrible clarity. Marcus had set the whole thing up, from the beginning. But why? For the next hour, Chan-woo explained everything his intelligence team had uncovered. Marcus Webb wasn't just Cynthia's ex-boyfriend. He was a key operative for a man named Vincent Kang, the head of a rival criminal organization that had been at war with Chan-woo's family for over 2 decades. The tech company where Damon had interned was a front for money laundering. Damon had been recruited to serve as an unwitting fall guy, a clean American face to sign documents and attend meetings while the real business happened behind the scenes. When the operation was exposed by an internal leak, everyone connected to it had been rounded up. Most of them had been killed, but Damon was kept alive. Why? Cynthia demanded. Why would they keep him alive? Because of you, Chan-woo said simply. Marcus was supposed to use your relationship as a way to get close to me eventually. Your brother is leverage, insurance. Get close to you how? I've never even met you before today. Chan-woo's expression darkened. Vincent Kang knows I have a weakness. He's known it for 10 years. What weakness? There was a long pause before Chan-woo spoke again. 10 years ago, my younger brother Yi-won went missing. Same pattern. He got involved with people he shouldn't have trusted. He disappeared without a trace. I spent 3 years and more money than I want to admit searching for him. Did you find him? No. Chan-woo's voice was flat, but Cynthia could see the pain beneath the surface. 6 months ago, I received evidence that Yi-won might still be alive. That evidence came from the same source that provided your brother's photograph. Vincent Kang has your brother too. Yes, he's been holding this over me for years. He knows I would do anything to find Yi-won. He's been waiting for the right moment to use that against me. Cynthia processed this information slowly. So this isn't just about business. This is personal, for both of us. Yes. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the same view Chan-woo had been contemplating earlier. If I help you with your financial situation, you help me rescue my brother. Yes. And together, we take down Vincent Kang. Yes. She turned to face him. There's something you're not telling me. Why were you really in that temple at 3 a.m.? Chan-woo was silent for a long moment. Tomorrow is the anniversary of the day my brother disappeared, he finally admitted. I go to that temple every year on this night. I make the same prayer you made. I ask for help finding him. Has anyone ever answered? Chan-woo looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Not until you walked in and made the same prayer I've been making for a decade. That's when I realized something. What? Maybe the universe wasn't sending help to me. Maybe it was sending me to help you. Because if I can save your brother, maybe I can finally find a way to save mine. Cynthia felt something shift between them in that moment. They were strangers, brought together by circumstances neither of them could have predicted. But they shared something now. A common enemy. A common goal. And maybe, just maybe, a common fate. There's one more thing you need to know before you agree to this, Chan-woo said. What? Marcus Webb isn't just working for Vincent Kang. According to intelligence I received this morning, Marcus is engaged to Vincent Kang's daughter. The wedding is in 3 weeks. Cynthia felt like she had been punched in the stomach. He's getting married. Yes, and your brother is going to be at that wedding. As a guest. Chan-woo shook his head slowly. As the entertainment. Vincent Kang plans to kill your brother at the wedding reception as a demonstration of power, in front of 200 of the most dangerous people in East Asia. Cynthia's blood turned to ice. Unless we stop it, Chan-woo finished. 3 weeks. She had 3 weeks to infiltrate one of the most dangerous criminal organizations in Asia, rescue her brother from a man who had betrayed her in every possible way, and escape with her life. And her only ally was a billionaire whose empire was built on the same kind of darkness she was trying to fight. But she didn't have a choice, not anymore. Tell me what I need to do, she said. The next 3 weeks were the most intense of Cynthia's life. Chan-woo relocated her from her cheap hostel to a secure penthouse in Hanam-dong, one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in Seoul. Armed security guards patrolled the building around the clock. Every entrance was monitored. Every visitor was screened. You can't go into this situation as you are now, Chan-woo told her on the first day. You're an investment analyst from Arizona. They'll see through you in seconds. So what do I become? Someone they'll never suspect. Someone they'll want to invite inside willingly. Over the following weeks, Cynthia underwent a complete transformation. Chan Wu brought in specialists to teach her how to move, speak, and present herself as someone with power. She learned the subtle gestures of wealth, the way rich people entered a room, the art of saying everything without saying anything at all. She studied Korean customs and etiquette. She memorized the names and faces of everyone in Vincent Kang's organization. She learned self-defense from Chan Wu's personal security team, training until her muscles ached and her knuckles bled. But the most important part of her transformation happened when she wasn't training. It happened during the late nights, when she found herself alone with Chan Wu. One evening, after a particularly exhausting session, Cynthia found him sitting on the penthouse balcony, staring at an old photograph. "Is that your brother?" she asked, sitting down beside him. "Yi-won," Chan Wu said quietly. "He was 22 when he disappeared. He wanted to be a musician. He hated everything about our family business. He tried to get out to build his own life." And someone stopped him. "Vincent Kang used him to send a message to my father. The message was simple. No one leaves the organization. Ever." Cynthia looked at the photograph. Yi-won had the same eyes as Chan Wu, intense, searching, like he was looking for something he couldn't find in this world. "You still believe he's alive?" she said. "I have to." There was something in his voice that made Cynthia's heart ache. She recognized it because she felt the same thing every time she thought about Damon. Hope, stubborn, irrational hope. The kind that refused to die even when everything pointed toward the worst possible outcome. "We're going to find them both," she said firmly. "Damon and Yi-won, we're going to bring them home." Chan Wu looked at her, and for the first time since they'd met, his carefully controlled expression cracked. Just a little. Just enough for her to see the man beneath the billionaire facade. "Why do you believe that?" he asked. "Because I don't know how to give up on people I love, and I don't think you do either." They sat in silence for a long time after that, watching the lights of Seoul sparkle below them. Something was changing between them. Cynthia could feel it, and she suspected Chan Wu could feel it too. But neither of them spoke about it. There wasn't time, not yet. On the 8th day of preparation, everything changed. Cynthia's phone rang, an unknown number. She answered it without thinking. Marcus Webb's face appeared on the screen. "Hello, Cynthia," he said with a smile that made her skin crawl. "I was wondering when you'd finally show up." Behind him, tied to a chair with a bloodied face, was her brother Damon. "I know you're with Park Chan-woo," Marcus continued casually. "I know what you're planning, and I want you to understand something very clearly." He leaned closer to the camera. "The wedding is still happening. Your brother is still going to die at the reception. But here's the fun part. You're going to be there to watch. Because if you don't come willingly, if you try to run or hide, I'll make sure his death takes days instead of seconds." The video call ended abruptly. Cynthia stared at the blank screen, her heart pounding in her chest. Marcus knew everything. Their plan was already compromised. "They know," she said to Chan Wu, who had rushed into the room at the sound of her voice. "They know everything." Chan Wu's face hardened. "Then we need a new plan, and we need it now." The original plan was dead. But Chan Wu hadn't built an empire by giving up when things went wrong. He had built it by adapting faster than his enemies could react. "Marcus wants you to come to the wedding," he said, packing his office. "He's counting on your emotions making you stupid. He expects you to walk in desperate and blind, easy to capture, easy to control." "So what do we do instead?" Chan Wu stopped packing and looked at her with those intense eyes. "We give him exactly what he expects, but we do it entirely on our terms." The new plan was dangerous, possibly suicidal, but it was the only option they had left. Cynthia would go to the wedding as planned. She would play the role of the desperate sister, exactly as Marcus expected. She would allow herself to be captured, brought before Vincent Kang, and used as additional entertainment. But what Marcus didn't know was that Cynthia wouldn't be alone. Chan Wu was going to the wedding too. Not as an enemy. As an invited guest. "Vincent Kang sent me an invitation 3 days ago," Chan Wu explained. He's arrogant. He wants to humiliate me by forcing me to watch while he destroys everything I've built. He doesn't know you and I are connected. He thinks I'm coming to negotiate a surrender. And instead, I'll have a team of 12 operatives inside the venue before either of us even arrives. When the moment is right, we'll extract both Damon and, if my intelligence is correct, Yiwon as well. Cynthia's eyes widened. Your brother's going to be at the wedding. According to my sources, Vincent Kang has been keeping Yiwon alive for the past decade as insurance against me. If I ever truly threatened his operation, he could reveal my brother as leverage. He's been waiting for the right moment. And that moment is the wedding. Yes, it's his masterpiece, his victory celebration. He wants to break me completely before he kills me. Cynthia nodded slowly. So we use his arrogance against him. Exactly. But there was something Chanwoo hadn't told Cynthia yet, something that had been troubling him for weeks. His inside source, the person who had been providing all of this intelligence about Vincent Kang's operations, was someone whose motives he had never fully understood. His own mother. The night before the wedding, Chanwoo received a message asking him to meet in person. Not in Seoul, but in Greenwich, Connecticut, where his mother had lived since divorcing his father 20 years ago. He flew overnight, arriving at her estate just as the sun was setting over Long Island Sound. Songye Park was waiting for him in her garden, an elegant woman in her 60s who looked at least a decade younger. She had been beautiful once, the kind of beautiful that made men do foolish things. Chanwoo's father had certainly done foolish things for her. You know about the wedding, she said without greeting him. Yes. You know about Yiwon. Yes. And you know that I'm the one who's been feeding you intelligence for the past 6 months. Chanwoo's jaw tightened. What I don't know is why. His mother looked up at him with eyes that held decades of secrets and resentments. Because Vincent Kang killed your father, she said simply. It wasn't a heart attack. It was poison. Slow-acting, untraceable. I've known for years, but I've been waiting for someone to be in a position to finally destroy him. She paused. You're almost there, Chanwoo, but you're missing one crucial piece of the puzzle. What piece? Songye handed him a thick folder. Vincent Kang has a silent partner, someone in America, someone very powerful, someone whose name you know very well. Chanwoo opened the folder. Inside was a photograph of a man he had trusted for over 15 years, his mentor, his primary American investor, the man who had helped him build Hanjin Global into the powerhouse it was today. Richard Sterling, Cynthia's former boss. The same Richard Sterling who had hired her at his investment firm in Scottsdale. The same man who had introduced her to Marcus Webb at a company party 5 years ago. The same man who had attended Cynthia's college graduation because her own parents couldn't make it. Chanwoo felt his world tilt on its axis. This wasn't just about 2 missing brothers anymore. This was about a conspiracy that stretched across continents and decades. And Cynthia Brooks was somehow at the very center of it all. When Chanwoo returned to Seoul and showed Cynthia the file on Richard Sterling, she refused to believe it at first. This doesn't make any sense, she said, flipping through the documents with trembling hands. Richard Sterling is a legitimate businessman. He manages endowments for hospitals and universities. He's on the board of 3 major charities. He sponsored scholarships for underprivileged kids. All of which are fronts for money laundering operations connected to Vincent Kang, Chanwoo said grimly. But why would he target me? I'm nobody. I was just a junior analyst at his firm. Chanwoo pulled up another file on his laptop. Your father, Jerome Brooks, worked for the Treasury Department. He was a federal investigator who specialized in tracking international financial crimes. I know what my father did, Cynthia said, her voice tight. He died in a car accident when I was 16. It wasn't an accident. The words landed like a physical blow. What are you talking about? Your father was about to expose Richard Sterling's entire operation, Chanwoo explained carefully. He had been building a case for 3 years. He was 3 days away from filing his report when his car went off a bridge outside of Phoenix. Cynthia felt the room spinning around her. The investigation was ruled accidental, Chan-woo continued. Your father's files disappeared, his colleagues were reassigned, and Richard Sterling continued his operations without interruption. You're saying Richard Sterling killed my father? We believe so. And then he spent the next 12 years keeping track of you, making sure your father's work never resurfaced. Chan-woo showed her another document, phone records, surveillance reports, meeting notes. When you showed an interest in finance during college, Sterling inserted himself into your life as a mentor. He arranged for you to get the internship at his firm. He made sure you felt indebted to him. He wanted to keep me close, Cynthia whispered, to control me, to make sure I never found out what he did to my father. Yes. And Damon, what about my brother? Your brother started asking questions about your father's death last year. He was researching the accident, talking to retired colleagues, trying to access old case files. When Sterling found out, he needed to remove Damon from the equation without raising suspicion. The internship in Korea was a trap from the very beginning. Marcus was assigned to you specifically to keep tabs on both you and your brother. Your entire relationship was manufactured. Cynthia sat down heavily, her legs suddenly unable to support her weight. Her father had been murdered. Her brother had been kidnapped as a direct result. Her entire career, her relationships, her life for the past 12 years had all been manipulation by a man she had trusted completely. Richard Sterling will be at the wedding, Chan-woo said quietly. He always attends major events connected to his investments. If we can get him to admit his connection to your father's death on tape, we can bring down the entire network. Cynthia looked up at him, and Chan-woo saw something new in her eyes. Not just desperation anymore, not just hope. Cold, burning determination. Tell me the plan, she said. The wedding of Vincent Kang's daughter took place in a converted Buddhist temple 2 hours outside of Seoul. The ancient wooden structures had been transformed into a palace of excessive wealth and barely concealed menace. Crystal chandeliers hung from 500-year-old beams. Armed guards in designer suits stood at every entrance, their weapons barely hidden beneath their jackets. And in the center of the grand hall, surrounded by the most dangerous criminals in East Asia, Marcus Webb stood waiting for his bride. He had no idea that his entire world was about to collapse around him. Cynthia entered through the service entrance, dressed in the simple uniform of the catering staff. Chan-woo's team had provided her with detailed blueprints of the entire compound. She knew exactly where the holding cells were. She knew exactly where Damon was being kept. She also knew she had exactly 47 minutes before the ceremony ended, and the entertainment began. Meanwhile, Chan-woo entered through the main doors, dressed in a custom suit that cost more than most people earned in a year. He played the role of the defeated rival perfectly, his shoulders slightly bowed, his expression carefully neutral. Vincent Kang greeted him personally at the entrance. Park Chan-woo, the older man said with a smile that didn't reach his cold eyes. I honestly didn't think you would have the courage to show up. I'm full of surprises, Chan-woo replied evenly. Across the crowded reception hall, a woman who looked remarkably like Cynthia approached Richard Sterling with a glass of champagne and a warm smile. Her name was Yuna, and she had spent the past week being trained to impersonate Cynthia perfectly. Same height, same build, same careful way of moving through a room. Mr. Sterling, she said in Cynthia's voice, it's been such a long time. Sterling's face went pale with shock. Cynthia, what on earth are you doing here? You invited me, don't you remember? Yuna said sweetly. You always told me I was like a daughter to you. I thought it was time I finally saw the family business for myself. While Yuna kept Sterling distracted, and the hidden recorder in her earring captured every word, the real Cynthia made her way through the service corridors toward the holding cells. She was halfway there when Marcus stepped out of the shadows directly in front of her. I knew you'd come for him, he said with a cold smile. You're so predictable that way, always trying to save people who can't be saved. Like you, Cynthia replied, keeping her voice steady. Marcus laughed. I was never worth saving, Cynthia. I've always been exactly what you see right now. You just didn't want to believe it. Why did you do it? Was any of it real? Any single moment? Does it matter anymore? It matters to me. Marcus shrugged carelessly. The job was to keep you close and controlled. Whether I enjoyed parts of it is irrelevant now. What Marcus didn't know was that Cynthia had spent the past 3 weeks training with Chan Woo's personal security team. She wasn't the same woman who had left Arizona desperate and helpless. When Marcus reached for her arm, she was ready. The fight was brutal but quick. Within 60 seconds, Marcus was on the ground with blood streaming from his broken nose and zip ties securing his wrists behind his back. That was for my brother, Cynthia said, standing over him. And for my father, and for every single lie you told me. She took his phone and sent a quick message to Chanwoo. Marcus neutralized, moving to holding cells now. She left him bleeding on the floor and continued her mission. The holding cells were exactly where Chanwoo's blueprints had indicated. Cynthia disabled the guards with skills she hadn't possessed 3 weeks ago. She broke through the locks with specialized tools hidden in her uniform. And then she saw them. 2 cells, 2 prisoners. Damon was in the first cell, thinner and more battered than the last time she'd seen him, but alive. Cynthia, he croaked, unable to believe his eyes. Is that really you? I'm here, she said, tears streaming down her face as she worked on his cell door. I'm getting you out. But there was someone in the second cell, too. A man in his early 30s, gaunt and hollow-eyed, but with features that were unmistakably familiar. Yiwon, Chanwoo's brother. He was alive. You're Park Chanwoo's brother, Cynthia said in amazement. Yes, Yiwon whispered. Please get us out of here. Cynthia was reaching for the lock on his cell when she heard a voice behind her that made her blood freeze. Hello, dear. Did you really think I was helping you out of the goodness of my heart? She turned to find Songye, Chanwoo's mother, standing in the doorway with a knife pressed against the throat of one of Chanwoo's extraction team members. Behind her stood 6 armed guards. I've been waiting a very long time for this moment, Songye said with a smile. And now, finally, all the pieces are exactly where I need them to be. Songye had been playing everyone for more than a decade. She had fed intelligence to her son to manipulate his every move. She had worked with Vincent Kang to keep Yiwon alive as leverage. She had orchestrated the connection between Marcus and Cynthia. And now, with all the pieces finally in place, she was about to claim everything for herself. You don't understand what's happening here, Cynthia said, trying to keep the woman talking while she searched for an escape route. Chanwoo trusted you completely. He's your son. Chanwoo is weak, Songye replied dismissively. He always has been. He wants to leave the organization. He wants to go legitimate. But this empire was built on blood and power, and it will only survive with blood and power. What do you actually want? I want what was taken from me 20 years ago. Control, respect, the empire that should have been mine all along. Songye gestured at the cells behind Cynthia. My husband built this organization, but he gave everything to Chanwoo when he died. He left me nothing but money and a house in America, as if I was just another asset to be managed. So you've been manipulating everyone. Vincent Kang, Richard Sterling, your own sons. Vincent Kang has been useful, but he's becoming unstable and unpredictable. Richard Sterling is getting sloppy. It's time for new leadership. Songye smiled coldly. My leadership. With Chanwoo dead. With Chanwoo understanding that he was never truly in control, that he never will be, and that if he wants his precious brother to survive, he'll do exactly what I tell him for the rest of his life. Cynthia's mind raced. She needed to buy time. She needed to warn Chanwoo. And then she remembered the recording device she was still wearing. Every word of this confession was being transmitted directly to Chanwoo's team. He could hear everything. She just needed to keep Songye talking a little longer. What about Richard Sterling? What about Vincent Kang? You think they'll just step aside and let you take over? Richard Sterling will be dead within the hour. He's outlived his usefulness. Vincent Kang will have an unfortunate accident during the celebration tonight, and the American authorities will receive evidence connecting both of them to decades of crimes. Leaving you as the only one standing. Exactly, clean, legitimate, above suspicion, with my eldest son running the business side and my youngest son as permanent insurance. An explosion rocked the entire compound. The building shook, dust rained from the ceiling, screams echoed from the main hall above. Chan Woo's extraction team had arrived early. In the chaos and confusion, Cynthia moved. She grabbed a piece of broken metal from the ground and threw it at Songye. The older woman ducked, and the knife at her hostage's throat slipped. That was all the opening they needed. Cynthia freed Damon and Yiwon from their cells as Chan Woo's operatives overwhelmed Songye's guards. The fighting was brutal and desperate, but within minutes, the extraction team had secured the corridor. "Go," one of the operatives shouted. "The helicopter is waiting on the north lawn." Cynthia grabbed Damon's arm and ran. Yiwon followed close behind, stumbling but determined. Behind them, Songye screamed orders at her remaining guards, but it was too late. Her carefully constructed plan was falling apart around her. They burst out of the compound into the cold night air. A helicopter was waiting exactly where they'd been told, its rotors already spinning. Chan Woo was there, covered in ash and blood but alive. "Get in," he shouted over the noise. Cynthia helped Damon climb aboard. Yiwon scrambled in after him. Then she and Chan Woo jumped in together. The helicopter lifted off just as Vincent Kang's remaining guards reached the lawn, firing uselessly at the departing aircraft. Cynthia looked down at the chaos below, her heart pounding wildly in her chest. They had done it. They had rescued both brothers. They had exposed the conspiracy. But as the helicopter banked toward Seoul, Cynthia saw something that made her blood run cold. Another helicopter was rising from the opposite side of the compound. And in the window, staring directly at her with a promise of revenge burning in her eyes, was Songye. Chan Woo's mother had escaped. And this war was far from over. 48 hours after the wedding disaster, Cynthia sat in a hospital room in Seoul, watching her brother sleep. Damon was alive. He was safe. He was receiving the medical care he desperately needed. And for the first time in 8 months, Cynthia could finally breathe. But the victory felt hollow and incomplete. The evidence Chan Woo's team had gathered during the wedding was transmitted to the FBI, Interpol, and the Korean National Police simultaneously. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within 24 hours, Richard Sterling was arrested at his vacation home in Aspen, Colorado. Federal agents found him trying to destroy hard drives full of incriminating evidence. He was denied bail due to flight risk. Marcus Webb was extradited to the United States to face charges for conspiracy, kidnapping, and a dozen other crimes. Without Songye's protection, he immediately began cooperating with prosecutors in exchange for a reduced sentence. Vincent Kang's organization was dismantled piece by piece. His assets were frozen. His lieutenants were arrested. His daughter's wedding became the biggest criminal takedown in South Korean history. But Songye remained at large, vanished into a network of safe houses and false identities that she had spent decades building. In a private room at the same hospital, Chan Woo sat with his brother for the first time in 10 years. They didn't speak for almost an hour. There was too much to say and not enough words to express any of it. "I thought you were dead," Chan Woo finally admitted. "For 10 years, I believed I had failed you completely." "You didn't fail me," Yiwon said quietly, his voice hoarse from years of disuse. "You never stopped looking. That's the only thing that kept me alive, knowing that someone out there was still trying to find me. I should have found you sooner. You found me when it mattered. That's what counts." Later that night, Cynthia found Chan Woo standing on the hospital roof, staring out at the glittering Seoul skyline. "What happens now?" she asked, joining him at the railing. "Now I rebuild, legitimately this time. No more shadows, no more secrets, no more pretending I don't know where the money comes from. Your mother is still out there. She won't stay hidden forever. She's too arrogant for that. She'll make a move eventually, and when she does, I'll be ready." Cynthia stood beside him, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body, despite the cold night air. "I have to go back to the States," she said. "Damon needs specialized medical care, and I have to give testimony to the FBI about everything I witnessed." "I know. But I'm coming back." Chan-woo turned to look at her. "You don't have to do that." "I know I don't have to," she met his eyes steadily. "I want to." They stood in silence for a long moment. "There's something I should tell you before you leave," Chan-woo said. "What?" "The night I heard your prayer in the temple, I wasn't there by accident. I received a message telling me to be there at exactly that time. I thought it was from Yi-won. I thought he had finally found a way to contact me. But it wasn't from Yi-won." "No." Chan-woo reached into his pocket and pulled out a USB drive. "It was from your father." Cynthia felt the world tilt beneath her feet. "My father has been dead for 12 years. Dead, yes, but not silent. He left a trail, Cynthia. A trail of evidence that he knew someone would eventually follow. He knew Richard Sterling would come after his children. He knew you would end up exactly where you did." Chan-woo pressed the USB drive into her hand. "This was delivered to me 3 weeks before I heard your prayer. It contains your father's complete investigation. Everything he knew about Sterling, about Kang, about the entire organization. And it contains a final message." "A message for who?" "For you." Cynthia returned to the United States 3 days later, accompanying Damon to a rehabilitation facility in Palm Beach, Florida, where he would spend the next several months recovering from his ordeal. She rented a small apartment nearby so she could visit him every day. The FBI interviews took weeks. The legal proceedings would take years, but none of that mattered. Her brother was alive. Her father's killer was going to prison. And for the first time in her adult life, she understood exactly who she was and where she came from. On her 47th night back in America, Cynthia finally felt ready to watch her father's message. She plugged the USB drive into her laptop and clicked on the video file. Jerome Brooks appeared on the screen, younger than she remembered him, sitting in what looked like a home office. The timestamp showed this was recorded just 3 days before his death. "Cynthia, baby girl," he said, and her heart shattered at the sound of his voice. "If you're watching this, it means I'm gone. It means they got to me before I could finish what I started. And it means you finally found the truth." He paused to collect himself, and Cynthia could see the fear in his eyes, but also the love. The overwhelming love of a father who knew he was about to leave his children behind. "I knew I couldn't protect you forever," he continued. "But I could give you the tools to protect yourself. I've arranged for everything to lead you to the right people at the right time when you're ready to understand. The evidence on this drive will expose everyone involved in the network I've been investigating. Use it carefully. Trust it to the right people. And when it's done, when you've finished what I started." His voice broke. "Let yourself be happy, baby girl. You deserve that. You've always deserved that. Don't spend your whole life fighting. Find something worth living for. Find someone worth loving. I'm so proud of you. Everything you've done, everything you've become. You turned out exactly the way I hoped you would. I love you, Cynthia. I love Damon. Take care of each other. And remember, no matter what happens, I'll always be watching over you." The video ended. Cynthia sat in the darkness of her apartment, tears streaming down her face, feeling simultaneously broken and whole. Her father had never stopped protecting her, even from beyond the grave. Over the following months, Cynthia worked with Chan-woo and federal investigators to dismantle the remaining pieces of the Sterling Kang network. The evidence her father had gathered proved invaluable. Connection after connection was exposed. Criminal after criminal was brought to justice. Richard Sterling received a life sentence with no possibility of parole. During his sentencing, he finally admitted to ordering Jerome Brooks' death. The admission brought Cynthia a sense of closure she hadn't known she needed. Marcus Webb received 15 years in federal prison. His testimony helped convict dozens of other conspirators. Cynthia never spoke to him again. Song-yi was finally captured in Singapore 6 months after the wedding. She was extradited to South Korea, where she faced charges that would keep her imprisoned for the rest of her life. Vincent Kang died in prison before his trial could conclude, a victim of the same violence he had inflicted on others for decades. Damon made a full recovery. He eventually returned to his music career, moving to Los Angeles where he could be close to Cynthia's new life. He wrote a song about their experience that became an unexpected hit, bringing awareness to the issue of human trafficking and international crime. And Cynthia found something she had never expected to find. A home. 1 year after that night in the temple, she returned to Seoul. She walked into Jajiesa Temple at 3:47 a.m. just like before. But this time, she wasn't alone. Chan Woo was waiting for her in the same spot where he had hidden in the shadows a year ago. "I have a question for you," he said. "What?" "That night when you made your prayer, you said you would give up anything, do anything. You said you would sacrifice everything to find your brother. What exactly did you mean?" Cynthia thought about it for a long moment. "I meant I was ready to give up my old life, my comfort, my safety, everything I thought I wanted to find the truth." "And now, what do you want now?" Cynthia walked toward him until they were standing face to face. "I want to build something new," she said. "Something real, with someone who understands what it means to fight for the people you love. Someone who knows what it feels like to lose everything and still find a reason to hope." Chan Woo reached out and took her hand. "I think I know someone who fits that description." She smiled. "So do I." The sun began to rise over Seoul, streaming golden light through the ancient temple windows. Cynthia had come to Korea looking for her brother. She had found him. She had also found the truth about her father. She had found justice for her family. And she had found something she never expected to find. Love. Real love. The kind that grew from shared struggle and mutual sacrifice. The kind that didn't need words to be understood. Chan Woo squeezed her hand gently. "So what happens now?" he asked. Cynthia looked up at him, at this man who had heard her desperate prayer and chosen to answer it, and felt a sense of peace wash over her. "Now," she said, "we start the next chapter together." And that is the story of how a desperate prayer in a temple at 3 a.m. led to the takedown of an international criminal conspiracy, the reunion of two shattered families, and a love story that neither Cynthia nor Chan Woo ever saw coming. This is why you should never give up on the people you love, because sometimes, even when you think no one is listening, someone hears you. Sometimes, the universe really is paying attention. And sometimes, it sends you exactly who you need, exactly when you need them most.